Hello again and welcome to RP-0 America. So I'm going to launch what's pretty much just a sounding rocket. I believe I picked up some sounding rock contracts for it to boot. I decided to go with the expensive engine. It has a longer burning time and such, I think. I'm just basically starting to get some experience with this set of engines. So it's really pretty much just a sounding rocket. Although, once that first stage engine is reliable, I could potentially use this to, put up small satellites or send small probes away, just kind of as a more modern miniature replacement of some of the rockets I already have. But that might make sense just to get experience with these engines so that they become more reliable, because ultimately I want to use these to launch like medium weight crewed craft. So we get the wobble of the MechJeb pit, which I'm willing to live with. I'm sure there's some waste of delta V there, but that's okay. This is just sounding rocket style, so it starts out pretty reliable, so I figured I was okay. I did a little bit of research and checked with Agathorn, and it should have, this rocket should be capable, rather this engine, they all evolve. Like, I did a bunch of research previously on a bunch of the early American engines, and they all kind of come from this improved kerosene burning version of the V2 engine called the S-3D. Sorry, I've got morning brain. I think that's right, S-3D. But effectively it's this kind of core developed engine that was then kind of changed, developed into all these other engines that were used, so that we've been playing with. So the gimbal limit down, that should just stop it wobbling a bit. So yeah, I just kind of want this to hit an altitude so I don't have to pay too much attention while it's running. In a test I had it run out of, the engine, the second stage shut down. I'm using the Agena D tank, although I don't have it full O propellants. So yeah, it looks like it's gathering data nicely. I can close this dialog now. Just don't mind that. I use that to pump up the electric charge because I'm not sure why it wasn't fully charged on the pad. So it's a big cloudy day out here in Florida. As you can see, you can only see part of the land, and we're high enough up you can start to see the Gulf of Mexico, I believe. Ambient light, yeah, it's not hugely affecting the clouds, so I'll just leave that on. Very useful tool. I'm glad it still exists for 1.1, so you can see my rocket as well as I can. Let's see, so I pulled up, I made a bunch of windows. The reason I haven't had a video out since the last one, I did some fiddling and I was trying to get better and figure out trajectories. I tried KSP TOT, and I definitely need tutorial and practice with that thing. Let's see, we're getting near burnout, and also just put up a craft and created windows. So it looks like the next Mars window, like we were pretty close to a Mars window, but it was pretty expensive. Also, I didn't have a craft on hand, so if I'd had a craft on hand, I may have been able to hit the current Mars window, which was basically the same amount of delta V, which is a high amount of delta V. Oh, did I not hit space in time? Anyway, let's, okay, separate. I'll turn on engine, separate. Okay, so now I need to make sure that propellant, it says very stable, so let's try that out. Oh, and it looks successful. Excellent. So second stage ignition. We're already at a nice high altitude, so let's pop those off. I just took the SCORE satellite, I think, just as a generic kind of sounding rocket that I could put into orbit if I wanted to. But I think I'm just going to figure out what altitude this can hit, because I took a couple contracts that call for it to, let's see, crew, all these are going to top load. Crew duration, yeah, there's plenty of that. Yeah, I just took a couple of sounding rocket contracts, so I'm already going to accomplish those, which is excellent. I really didn't even need the second stage to do that, which is good to know. As if we didn't have this extra 3 tons of craft to push, it would have arced already above this altitude with just the first stage engine running. You can see what I've got set up. I'll look at the technologies I have to open, because that's somewhat limiting of what I want to do, because I want to open Gemini so I can send up a 2-person craft and do some docking. I want to get Hydrolux, because I'm thinking of using like an Atlas Centaur for that. So I'd do something ahistorical, but kind of just start my divergence not too intensely, or with just a fresh design. And even then, I might be able to do a comparison of the Titan II vehicle to the Atlas Centaur, so you can see how they differ. But they would both have similar capacities to low Earth orbit, I believe. Yeah, I've got a window to Mercury, which seems like a high amount of delta V. I'll have to check a delta V map. I'm not sure if Kerbal Alarm Clock / MechJeb planning tools are being a little screwy or not, and I suppose I'll find out. But I mean, that's a window I can't hit just because it's 15 days away and I can't construct something in 15 days. But it's good to kind of get back in and get a feel for how much delta V I'm going to have to design into a craft. I'd probably use something like Atlas Aegina, or whatever I want to end up calling that first stage craft, and Aegina or something. And then say expend the 3,000 meters per second or so out of this, and then have like a solid as to provide the extra boost. I believe that it's kind of how some of the deep space probes went. They would be sent up by Centaur. Centaur would send them out of Earth's influence, but to get the real delta V to get out to Jupiter, they'd have another smaller solid booster to shoot them away from the Aegina and get more delta V. There we go. So we are out of fuel. So we got to a pretty healthy altitude. That's for sure. Wow. Yeah, that's going to be an excellent sounding rocket, this two-stager, and it even does, it has lots of advantages because it also gets me more experience on this engine, which will contribute to future versions of this Aegina engine, which I see myself as likely to use. It would be a shame if I started using the AJ10 derived engines, because I don't think I have any engine experience on those, so I've definitely locked myself into using Aeginas instead of because these have a higher thrust rather than using the lighter thrust engines. Yeah, so that is our sounding rocket. Let me just arc it up and fall back down. So we're going to arc pretty far away. You can see the northern part of Central and South America, and a bit of America there, and an arc to a pretty impressive altitude where we could see the nighttime side of Europe, and then this thing is just going to explode. I don't remember if I had a contract or not to do science, to gather science from space. I don't think I saw one, so cool. There's a range safety option now. I've never seen that. Range safety. Cool. Well, fair enough. I didn't have a contract to touch down, but now I can just blow up the craft. So that seems to be some option Nathan Kell snuck in, which is pretty cool. Very cool. Okay, so imagine the mass of the explosives for range. So range safety would be if let's say the rocket seemed like it was first stage lit, we were starting to lose control of it, and before it could smash into a bunch of houses or something, or cause some serious damage, range safety would be in charge of the self-destruct sequence for the rocket to make sure it did as little damage on the ground as possible. Didn't say start jetting 100 tons of rocket propellant out into a suburb while it was failing. So this gives us an idea of what we'll be designing for. The days, the Venus window is pretty far out, the Mars window is pretty far out. I don't think I'll hit the Venus window unless maybe I do a Venus orbiter, which is neat to me. Let me know if you guys are interested in seeing me do a Venus orbiter. To me, it wouldn't feel like a huge jump from what I've done already, because I believe I did a Venus flyby in my previous series, but it is a whole nother maneuver. I've just finished reading an old NASA paper for a plan for a crewed mission to Venus orbit and then back, which was really cool. And so I could potentially use that as a practice mission, because with the limitations of the planning tools that KSP has, basically I like to carry out a light mission version of something before I really do it, because that's the best way to simulate it. Because you need to try to get into a very specific orbit of Venus on your way into Venus orbit, so that you're in a really good path to help save yourself delta V for injecting yourself back towards Earth. So that would be the thing I'd have to practice. So I'd really love to be getting better solids. These are mostly, those are upper stage solids. That's a bit better of a first stage or a booster solid. Not the nicest shape, but whatever. I could potentially make my own procedural solids, but I'd prefer to stick to historical ones if I can. Let's see what other texts. So this stage combustion isn't too useful to me as being in an American program, because that's Soviet engine. Those are engines for the Proton launch vehicle, which is still today used to reach geostationary orbit for large satellites. Not too useful. I really want to get towards this, but I'm currently researching flight control, I believe, just because I'd like to have some more of these additional doodads. These are useful for Gemini. I'd like the better flight pack. I need this for docking. I just, as the name of the node suggests, I would like better control of some of my small craft. And I'd also like to end up getting this because it gives you better solar panels, which means you can keep a larger craft alive further along. This is a really great core for, if I want to put something into orbit of Venus or Mars, this is a great core to do it. I think I already have something vaguely similar, super vaguely similar. I don't think, like the early controllable core, something like that. There we go. This is what I currently have. Which is similar, so $1,200. Here it's not going to show me the actual price of the core. Lost it. Or maybe that is the cost of the core. Oh no, it is actually showing me the real cost. Cool. Yeah. So I'd like to get that technology. I'm currently researching this one, I believe, and I'd really like to get early hydrolocks because that will give me the RL-10, so I can start showing you how efficient you can make your engines. And it's a really cool progression of engines because they go from this really low, it's high compared to tons of other engines, so it's a great intro, 422 ISP. And then you progress through all these more and more efficient engines up through modern times where they approach about 460 ISP, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing ISPs. And then these are like kind of futuristic or modern engines but it gives you an idea of the path that is being followed with these engines. And it has a similar thrust to the Agena, so it's really applicable to my program. And so you've got the low ISP version of it, or low for hydrolocks ISP, which in the next node ends up bringing you to the J2 engine, which basically, if once they've developed the RL-10, you have the engineering choice: do we make a more efficient RL-10, or do we move towards making a much larger engine with a similar efficiency? So it's a really interesting point in American history where they went well beyond what the Soviets were doing at the time. I believe Korolev was very against, he was against really any fuel other than kerosene and liquid oxygen, and so they didn't go in that direction, which is a shame because then the N-1 rocket might have been a success, might have been able to lift enough mass into orbit, but there's a lot of what-ifs when it comes to the Soviet program. But those are the technologies I'm looking at unlocking, and of course, this one I hadn't poked because it's still missing the prerequisite of improved instrumentation. I need to get the Gemini technology. So there's a ton of technology that I will unlock between now and my next video. And that's kind of where we are. And we're not being offered any amazing contracts. Something for human orbital. Was there a minimum amount of time? It's kind of a tricky orbit. Like, to specifically get to this orbit, I'd need to design the launcher a bit to burn out above 200 kilometers. And I'd like to have a service module before I do that. And I really don't need the cash right now. So, which is the state I prefer to be in for this. I'm not going to go ahistorical. I'm not going to do the first spacewalk until I have the Gemini capsule because with the Mercury tech, the Americans weren't capable of doing that. And then I just have kind of a bunch of weird ones. Jupiter flyby, I can't really do that because it takes a ton of delta V. Phobos flyby, Mars is already a pretty good burn away, and I believe I can get a contract for a Mars flyby. Venus, it's asking me to fly by again, even though I've already done that, which I could do. It would give me cash. It's a great incentive to do it. But I'm mostly interested in, an abstract RP-0 playthrough. This is more similar to what I'm used to doing when testing things, rather than like a super strict playthrough. Uncrewed Mars landing, that's dangerous, trying to land something on Mars. Maybe a Venus landing would be a bit easier. I wouldn't mind doing that. Space data from around Mars. Yeah, so lots of good little missions. I would probably do farm some lunar missions if I needed cash because it's close by. I need to build it and then smash it into the moon or land it on the moon or get it into orbit of the moon. It's just a few days away, and so it's a good return for your cash, I'd say. That's the state we're in. Thanks for watching the Sounding Rocket launch. So I'll unlock a bunch of technology, and we'll, please comment. That will definitely suggest what I end up doing in the next few videos, which of these contracts I start going for. But really, I need to do a bit of waiting to get some of these technologies unlocked so we can do fun things. Thanks for watching. This is RP-0 America. Goodbye.